Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Sports Shorts Daily. Please like and share this video. Ronnie Rance here with you alongside Tommy Krysan. Today on Sports Shorts Daily, we're going to get into, of course, LSU baseball last night. They take care of business against Nicholls. They're in preparation for going on the road this weekend to Alabama. Had an interesting conversation with Jay Johnson before the game yesterday. Tell you a little bit about that and what his thoughts are on LSU getting into and hosting a regional. And he also thinks being a top 8 national seed is not out of the realm of possibility. And of course, obviously, if they won all the rest of the games, they would be. But there's a scenario to that may surprise you. So we'll talk about that coming up. Of course, Tyrann Mathieu to the Saints has been the buzz the last couple of days. A lot of former LSU Tigers are excited for him. And as we are. The Ohio State athletic director, Gene Smith, with some comments yesterday that have gotten some national attention. This is the second week in a row that a big-time AD or president has made some comments about changing the landscape of college football and at least the structure of it. And he had some thoughts. We'll get into that. Kevin Gausman has been on fire for the Toronto Blue Jays as the Blue Jays are – remember, they were a team that a lot of people thought, hey, they can be surprised this year. They may win the World Series. Well, they haven't done anything to dispel that, although the Yankees are ahead in their division. The Yankees have off to a great start, 18-6. But the Blue Jays are 5 games above 500, and so we'll get into that. Dodgers reveal their plans for the All-Star game. The Dodgers have been trying to host the All-Star game since 2020, and because of COVID, they got bumped in 20, bumped in 21. They're finally going to host the All-Star game on July the 19th, and it's going to be a pretty big spectacle for a few days all over the city of Los Angeles. Let's bring in Tommy Krysan, who joins us today, courtesy of Tremonti's Meat and Seafood. First topic to get to, TK, last night, LSU baseball. Impressive for 7 innings. They're up 10-1 going into the 9th, and all of a sudden it gets a little hairy. They end up winning, 10-6, I believe, was the final. But what was your takeaway from what you saw yesterday from LSU baseball, who won a midweek game for the first time in a couple weeks?
Yeah, well, no, I was out at the box. I didn't stay for the whole game when the thing got a little shaky. They put a lot of guys into the game, obviously, and some guys pitched that don't have a lot of innings pitched at all. I had to even look up the one guy. I'm like, hey, who the heck's that? So I was watching down the stretch, listening to you and Lynn Rollins on the call. And, it's a win. As we talked about Monday, Nicholls is a better team this year than they were last year. But, LSU jumped on them and, had the big lead, almost thinking 10-run rule might happen. But they get the win over a decent Nicholls team, and hopefully they can, get some momentum into the weekend in Tuscaloosa.
The LSU, Berry hit another home run. He's now got 15 pumps on the year. He's on his way to probably be settling in that 20 range. Jacob Berry, left-handed. He's 14 of his 15 homers have come left-handed. His average is now up almost to 380. This guy is, he's going to be a one and done at LSU. He's going to end up being, even though his defense is not good, he's going to end up being a first-round pick. His offense is spectacular. But he hit one up, ended up on the roof in right field, up on those shingles. They're going to have to call Cribs Incorporated to get their roof fixed. But, man, what he's doing right now, throwing Jacob Pearson, who had 2 home runs last night, the freshman who's really come into his own lately. LSU now with the tremendous offense from not just the big 4, but now you throw in Pearson, who looks like he's legit. Now you got 5 dudes that are all above 300, all can run it out the yard.
Yeah, I mean, it's quite something to see. I had left the park right before Berry hit that big fly, but a friend of mine that was sitting in the park texted me while I was in the car and said, you should have seen that home run. He thought I was still there. But, no, that ball's crushed. Clearly more power from the left side for Berry. Like you said, a couple of more home games, not a whole lot unless we get postseason, and you're going to talk about that in a minute. But you better get out there and check him out.
Talking about postseason, before the game yesterday when visiting with LSU coaches, particularly Jay Johnson, I said to him, I said, Coach, what do you think about 18 wins? I said, in my mind, 18 is the number, right? You get 18, you're a lock to host a regional. He said, he goes, heck, I think 16, we got an outside shot, and I think 17, we're a lock. He said, I think if we get to 18 wins, we're on the back end of maybe hosting a super regional.
Wow.
Based off of the power rankings and the strength of schedule and all that sort of thing. So from that perspective, LSU has 9 games left to go in the SEC. If they go 6-3, that gets them to 18. According to Jay Johnson at the moment, he thinks with the way things would shake up. And he said, and he did say this. He said, and we got to take care of the 3 midweek games we got left. He said we need those wins to make our our overall strong as well. Talking about the our overall wins. But he said if we take care of the 3 midweek games, we go 6-3 in our last 9 games. He expects that's at 18 wins. That probably is going to be enough to maybe backdoor into a top 8 national seed. That surprised me a little bit. He thought that 17 was, get to 17 wins. We're hosting, talking about LSU hosting an NCAA regional. So that bodes very well for the Tigers. I think if you get to 18, Tommy, 18 wins in the conference, you're going to be a top 4 seed in the conference, which means you won't have to play on Tuesday, which means that you get to start on Wednesday. You're guaranteed 2 games if you start on Wednesday. And I think from that perspective, it's huge for LSU because if you're not outside of that top 4, do you bring Mikal Hilliard back on short rest? And if you don't bring Mikal Hilliard back on short rest, LSU doesn't have a 4th guy they don't have a guy they have a lot of faith in. They're going to have to piecemeal it again, and that could be a one-and-done situation. And then you're sitting there at home wondering for a week if you're hosting a regional and that sort of thing.
Well, and the other part, and I'm glad Jay Johnson said that, he's thinking that, and we talk about this every year when we get to May. It also depends on what other people do, not just in the SEC, but other conferences and around the country. Somebody catch fire in May and win their conference tournament and get into that hosting thing, and then you're going to have some teams that maybe kind of regularly host, like a Vanderbilt that might not. Mississippi State has been hosting for a while. They're not going to host this year. So, I'm following him, but I think I'm going to go back to what you said. You get to 18, he might be being a little optimistic on the 16 end. 17, I guess it could be discussed. But, clearly this team is, I think, playing a little better now than they were a month ago. And the schedule softens up with Bama, Ole Miss, and Vandy. Ole Miss and Vandy not having the year anyone expected them to have. So, we'll see. You got to get out there and play. And then as you talked about on Monday, when exams are over, they're full-time baseball players. They're like professionals, and they can do a little extra of this, extra of that. And, we've seen LSU teams in the past get hot in the month of May. That's what this team needs to do if they want to be a super regional host. I mean, if they keep going like they are, I think they'll be a regional in Baton Rouge.
So as far as LSU baseball is concerned, I had a conversation with Doug Thompson, of course, who was on the radio call last night, and we talked after the game at Walk-Ons a little bit about this, and that is, what do you think of this team? Because it's a mixed bag. On one hand, you go, hey, they got tremendous offensive talent. I mean, let's face it. You got 4 guys that everybody's been talking about all year. Obviously, Morgan's not the same guy with the knee injury, but he's still really good. Now you're throwing in the emergence of a young freshman in Pearson who's going to be special at LSU. He comes from a family of good players. He's a hard worker, and he's got super big talent. And then you've got some nice complementary players. Joe Bear's going through a little slump right now. Thompson's had his moments. You've got the emergence of the young catcher from Samford, the transfer, who's all of a sudden now offensively getting it going. Average is climbing up above 250 right now, and the power stroke is coming. So you've got some complementary. Your lineup you got to like. Pitching wise, when you look at it as a whole, you've got 11 pitchers, Tommy, that 11 pitchers, and I don't have Blake Money in that 11 right now, that you have some level of confidence in that can go get you 1 or 2 or 3 good innings. And what I mean by that is I look at Mikal Hilliard and Dutton as your starters. Mikal Hilliard obviously is capable of going to the 7th or 8th inning for you. Dutton's the kid who pitches on Sundays, capable of going into the 4th or 5th or 6th for you. I don't know what you get out of Blake Money or what you can count on Blake Money at the moment. That's a whole different conversation. But then out of the bullpen, you got the two lefties, Hasty and Cooper, that have really come on, and they're dudes. Hasty's breaking ball right now is as good as any left-handers in the country. And then you throw in a whole bag of righties and Reiseman and your big closer, your 6'10" closer, your base, and you throw in Fontenot and what he's done in his time, and you throw in Grant Taylor, the big freshman, hard throwing righty. I'm trying to think of some other guys. Oh, Cooper with his good breaking ball. These are all guys that I believe that Jay has confidence in. Hey, go get me an inning or two, good innings. Now, you don't have the 3-4 starters. You got one, and you got 1.5. I think he's got 1.5 right now with Dutton. But the rest is piecemeal, piecemeal. And can that win and get you to Omaha only having really one stud starter, a half a starter, and a bunch of guys that can get you an inning or two? I haven't really seen it done that way, so this is going to be interesting.
Well, Ronnie, I go back to early December. You and I were at a private function, kind of a meet and greet with Jay Johnson, if you will. Had about 30 of us in the room. And he said that night, we're going to be the kind of team that uses a lot of pitchers to get 27 outs. We're going to be long games. I mean, he's 2 for 2 there. They're using a lot of pitchers. There are long games, although they've shortened up a little bit as of late. So that's how he thinks is the best way to give them a chance to win. I might try this weekend. I might start Hasty one of the games, okay, and see how far he can go. I don't know what his longest outing is this year. I don't think he's been more than 3 innings. But, I mean, like you said, he has come on. He throws 90-91. He's got a great breaking ball from the left side. You can make guys flip the order a little bit or change some guys out. Start Hasty, see how far he can go, then come with a righty and force them to change their lineup. I'd like to see him give that guy a shot. He only threw 18 pitches last night. Hey, that's nothing. That's a bullpen workout, not even a bullpen workout on a Tuesday. Start him Saturday against Alabama. Coach Johnson's not going to listen to me, but I think it'd be a good idea.
Yeah, I definitely think a Jacob Hasty move to at least being that starter where you say, hey, get me one time through the lineup, and then after that you just see how he feels and how he's doing, and maybe you can get an extra one from him. But, yeah, I think that's not a bad plan, particularly if he doesn't throw – like let's say the Vandy final series – by the way, LSU goes at Alabama, at home against Ole Miss. Don't sleep on Ole Miss's record. I mean, they play everybody tough. They're capable of beating anybody. They destroyed a team last night. But so – Ole Miss comes to town, and then you got Vandy on the road. Vandy's not as good as they've been in the past. They're not as intimidating. But at that place with that speed, putting pressure on LSU's run game, the defensive game, with the catching situation, which is not very good, that will be an interesting series, not one that on paper benefits the Tigers. So you would like to see LSU really take care of business this weekend, maybe sweep or something against Alabama or Ole Miss, get you a sweep so that you got a little cushion going into that Vandy series where maybe you only got to win one, to get where you want to be, to get to that 18 win or 17 win or something like that to guarantee you're hosting a regional. But I think a Hasty move to being a potential starter, but as a 3-4 inning guy, that's not a bad idea there.
Well, go with Hasty and tell Blake Money, hey, Hasty's going to go 3 innings, 4 pitch counts real low. Maybe he goes into the 5th, and then you're the next guy in because then you go lefty righty, and maybe that sparks Money a little bit, knowing he's not starting. I don't know.
All right, let's move on. Let's see. The Tyrann Mathieu news of the week has been super exciting for the New Orleans Saints fans, and besides the fact they're going to sell a ton of merchandise, Tommy, what does this do for the Saints? Legitimately on the field? We know it's a PR coup, and we know LSU people are happy, as old St. Aug teammates and neighborhoods happy. But what does this do for the team?
I think the important thing is it's a position of need, safety position, because they lost a couple of guys there. So I think it helps solidify what was a pretty good defense. And there's always changing parts in the NFL. But, I know it's warm and fuzzy with St. Aug and LSU, but the point is, they need a person that can play safety. And I was thinking about talking with some guys last night. Drew Brees was the longtime leader of this football team. I think I can see Mathieu jumping into that role where he's giving a little speech in the end zone before the game or on the sidelines before kickoff. He has become that kind of guy. Did a little bit of that in Kansas City, so I wouldn't be surprised to see that. And I think it would be good. Yeah, they're going to sell a lot of merchandise, but the biggest thing of the whole story is the Saints needed to find somebody at that position. Oh, it happens to be Tyrann Mathieu, and I think it's going to be a big, big thing for the Saints.
You mentioned Drew Brees and being the leader and all that. You saw that the motivational speech he kind of gave LSU's baseball team, that quick little one the other day. You see Chance says Mathieu brings leadership to secondary, replaces Jenkins' role in the locker room. Yeah, we've been saying that for a couple of weeks now when we've been hoping for it. Did you see, and I said this last night on air, I mean, when Jacob Berry has his hat on with the eye black, I mean, it's crazy how much he and Drew Brees resemble each other. Did you see the picture they took together?
I did not.
Oh, it's all over social media.
I'll check it out.
Jacob Berry and Drew Brees took a photo together, at the game. And, I mean, it looks like Drew Brees when he was 19, 20 years old. I mean, you throw a little birthmark on his face, and he doesn't even have to dress up for Halloween. Like, that's his outfit. I mean, it's unbelievable.
Well, and Berry doesn't need a hair transplant.
Exactly. But or does he? I don't even know. I don't think I've ever seen him without his hat on. Wouldn't know him if you walked by me if he didn't have hat and eye black on in a jersey. But anyway, it's pretty incredible how much they do look alike. And yeah, I agree with you wholeheartedly, man. Tyrann Mathieu, that leadership that he brings to the table. I don't know what the long term. He's guaranteed $18 million, in his contract. I think this is probably a 2-year play for the New Orleans Saints. Obviously, if he does well in those 2 years and there's still maybe some gas in the tank, maybe they give him another year or something. But I think this is a 2-year play, and they're looking at it like a 2-year window to go maybe make a noise and win a championship.
Well, and here's what he's been to 2 Super Bowls and he won one of them. Okay, that gets other players' attention who have never done that. So when he stands up in that locker room or the practice field or whatever, and he says, "Guys, this is what we got to do to win a Super Bowl," those players are going to listen to him more than the guy that never won a Super Bowl. So that's a key ingredient.
All right, let's move on to Major League Baseball real quick. Kevin Gausman has been off to a fantastic start. We know that the Toronto Blue Jays are one of the feel-good stories of the year, and they were kind of a team that's been a lot of people picked to win the World Series or get to the World Series or have a big run. How about so far this year? It's only a small sample size. Kevin Gausman, 5 starts, Tommy, 41 Ks, no walks, no homers allowed. I mean, that's unbelievable. And, this from a guy who there was a moment in his career in the major leagues where you didn't know if it was going to happen. Is he going to have a 10-year major league career and be a stud? We knew that he hit 100 miles an hour when he was at LSU. He played for 2 years out of Colorado and, 10 years ago, and he had all the talent in the world. But then he got to the majors, and there was growing pains like there is for a lot of people. But, oftentimes guys don't get better than that, or they don't fix it up, or they have a lot of – there's so many guys that can throw 100 that are in the minor leagues right now. But Kevin Gausman figured it out, became a different pitcher, has an amazing splitter and sinker and everything else to go along with a big-time arm in the mid-90s and run it up there in the upper 90s every once in a while. It's unbelievable what he's doing. Like, this guy is turned into next level. It's not just – last year wasn't just a fluke in San Francisco is what he's showing here in Toronto. Signed a big contract in the offseason, and now he's living up to it.
Yeah, he really is. And, of course, Toronto's one of the best teams in baseball. And when you pitch and your guys are going to score 4 or 5 or more runs, you can get out there and get after it. But no walks and not allowing the big fly, I mean, that's impressive in the major leagues. You'd be curious to see how far it can go. But, I always liked Gausman as a pitcher. And, when he left Baltimore, and I think he went to Atlanta for a year, you're right. There was that phase like, okay, maybe the window is closed on him. But, no, I guarantee you Toronto is glad to have him. He'll be an all-star for sure.
31 2/3 innings pitched so far for Gausman to start the season. He's given up 31 hits, so a hit per inning. His ERA is 2.27. And as we pointed out, 0 walks in that 31 2/3 innings pitched.
You mentioned the All-Star game in L.A. He'll be there.
Oh, no question. Talking about the no walks thing, and anytime anybody brings up walks in 1992, Lloyd Peaver, who started that year for LSU as our ace and was a heck of a pitcher, he went 40. I don't remember the number, but it was like 45 innings or something like that to start the year without a walk.
Wow.
I mean, it's unbelievable. I mean, that's really unbelievable.
Yeah, and when you mix in getting people out, and I know what Peaver was 14-0 or something that year.
Right.
When you mix in getting people out and winning games and the no walks, I mean, if you're not walking people, but they're scoring 3 runs because they're pounding the ball in the gap and down the line all day, that's different. But no, that's remarkable. I mean, I enjoy reading things like that because stuff like that is not supposed to happen, and it does not happen often.
Real quick, and we'll talk more about it on Friday, but this is 2 weeks in a row that the NCAA conversation has come up. This one a little bit more timely. You know, we talked about the Notre Dame president, AD, whatever, a week ago, talked about how the NCAA needs to, the football needs to break off, maybe do its own thing. Now the Ohio State athletic director has some comments to the same, that maybe the 10 FBS schools, 10 FBS conferences should break off and have their own governance, set their own rules and everything, and let the NCAA handle basketball and all the Olympic sports. You think it's a matter of when, not if?
I agree. It's going to happen. Now it tried to happen back in the 90s, the old CFA, the College Football Association. They supposedly broke off like 60-something teams. We're going to have a special TV contract. Well, the money wasn't what it is now. So I'm just waiting for one of the TV networks, or is it Amazon TV, Apple TV? There's a lot of platforms now that didn't exist back then. Is going to drop the money onto a 64 team or a super Power 5 or super conference kind of thing, because they're just going to have to do it, because Skip Bertman accurately pointed out Sunday night on Hold the Rope Radio, whenever they go vote on things, all the Division III and Division II teams and the FCS schools, they all get a vote. Well, they vote against all this kind of stuff because they can't afford it. They don't have the resources. They don't have the money. So it's always going to get shot down if they've tried to do something. But if they separate, then all those votes from Division III and Division II, no effect. They can just vote on what's happening in the NCAA. But with Mark Emmert leaving, it's time for the NCAA to just wipe the slate clean and start this thing over. And if that means the football separating, then that's what it's got to be. And I'm very much believe it's a matter of when, not if.
We'll talk more about this topic on Friday, and we'll get into the NIL side of it, because there's conversation about that. And I don't know that once you open that can of worms, you can ever put it back, back together again. I think it's like in baseball where they changed the bats years ago and they said it was for safety reasons, and once you use those terms and you say, this is why we did it, you can't ever say, well, there's not enough offense in the game, let me change the bats back, because then you get a lawsuit. Same thing here with NIL. Once you allowed it, and once you said, hey, this is, we're opening it up, we want our athletes to be able to do what they want, and then now to go back and say, oh, wait a minute, you can't use it this way, that way, that's never going to happen.
Well, yesterday or the day before, there's a great article by Ross Dellinger, who spent some time working for the Advocate in Baton Rouge. He's now with Sports Illustrated. Go to sinow.com. All about the NIL thing. And I responded to Ross like it's hard to unscramble the egg, once you scramble it. But it's a great argument. Maybe some of you folks watching, go read it, because we'll talk more about it on Friday. It's very, Ross always does such a good job. I enjoy reading his stuff and highly recommend it to everyone. But no, it's a mess. It really is.
All right, TK, we'll be back with you on Friday morning for more Sports Shorts Daily, presented by LeBear's Casino. Tell us about Tremonti's Meat and Seafood before we get out of here.
Mother's Day weekend. You want some live crawfish, some boiled crawfish, some cake balls. You want anything you need. Steaks, meat, seafood, wine selection's unbelievable. Get Mother's Day weekend set up at Tremonti's Meat and Seafood. Connect on Facebook and Instagram, or stop by. It's on Jefferson Highway, right down the street from Parkview Baptist Church and School. Tremonti's.com. Tremonti's Meat and Seafood, Baton Rouge. Check it out.
All right, he's Tommy. I'm Ronnie. Thanks for watching Sports Shorts Daily, presented by LeBear's. Have a great week, everybody. Please like.